Welcome to Yoga for All by the Yoga Funk. I'm your host, Jake.
And I'm Hannah.
And can you believe it? We are already on episode $10.
10. Already? Wow.
Feels like just yesterday we were getting started with this whole podcast thing, but here we are, 10 episodes in and ready to stretch our knowledge.
Literally.
So today we're going to be going into the world of yoga again and how it can benefit athletes of all levels, from weekend warriors to seasoned pros.
Yeah, I think this will be a good one, especially since we had this awesome overview from Yoga for Athletes. Strength, flexibility, and recovery to help guide us.
Definitely. And a lot of people think of yoga as just stretching, right? But we're going to be busting that myth today and exploring all the ways that yoga can actually enhance your athletic performance no matter what sport you play.
I'm excited to talk more about it
Me too. So to kick things off, let's tackle the big question. Why should athletes even bother with yoga?
Yeah, it's a good question. Isn't it just, for people who like to touch their toes and stuff?
Right, exactly. So what's the big deal?
Well, that's where the misconceptions start to crumble. You see, yoga is so much more than just stretching. It's like cross-training for your entire body and mind. It can help you build strength, increase flexibility, and even sharpen your mental game.
Okay, cross-training for your mind. I like that. How does that work?
Well, think about it. When you're training for any sport, you're not just working on your physical abilities, right? You're also training your mind to focus, stay calm under pressure, and make those split-second decisions. And yoga can actually help you with all of that because it promotes mindfulness, breath control, and body awareness.
Okay, so it's like a mental workout as well as a physical one.
Exactly. It's all connected.
That's really interesting. So we're talking about yoga's benefits beyond stretching. Where should we start?
I think, one of the biggest concerns for any athlete is injury prevention, right? I mean, you're constantly pushing your limits, putting stress on your body. And yoga can actually help counteract that by strengthening those smaller, stabilizing muscles that you might not even think about and increasing your overall range of motion. And
so it's like reinforcing the foundation of your body.
Exactly, making it more resilient to the demands of your sport.
That makes a lot of sense. So you're saying that yoga can actually help prevent injuries?
It absolutely can. For example, runners often develop tight hamstrings and hip flexors, which can lead to all sorts of issues.
Oh, yeah, I've been there.
Right. And yoga can directly address these imbalances, loosening up those tight areas and reducing the risk of those nagging runners' injuries.
That makes total sense. But it sounds like yoga's benefits go way beyond just preventing injuries.
Oh, they do, for sure. Improved flexibility and mobility are huge, especially for athletes.
Okay, so we're not just talking about touching your toes here.
No, not at all. It's about having a full range of motion in your joints, which translates to better, more efficient movement in your sport.
Okay, I see what you mean. So if you're a basketball player, being able to twist further to make that game-winning pass, or a swimmer with greater shoulder flexibility for a stronger stroke, yoga can actually help you perform better.
You got it. It's all about optimizing how your body moves so you can be more powerful and agile on the court, in the pool, whatever your sport takes you.
So yoga isn't just about, relaxation and stretching. It's about enhancing your athletic performance.
Exactly. It's a performance enhancer in a completely natural and holistic way.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about injury prevention and flexibility. What about recovery? I know athletes are always looking for ways to bounce back faster after tough training sessions. Does yoga have a role to play there?
Absolutely. In fact, this is where yoga really shines. It boosts blood flow to your muscles, helps flush out lactic acid, the stuff that makes you sore, and it just generally promotes faster healing and recovery. So
it's like a reset button for your body?
Yeah, exactly. Helping you get back to peak performance quicker.
That's pretty amazing. But we talked earlier about this whole mind-body connection. So is there a mental aspect to recovery as well?
Oh, for sure. Yoga emphasizes breath control and mental focus, which are both essential for athletes who need to perform under pressure.
Okay, tell me more about that. It sounds almost like a superpower.
Well, in yoga, there's a practice called pranayama, which is all about regulating your breath.
Pranayama.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds kind of intimidating, but really it's just about learning to control your breath. And these breathing techniques are like training wheels for your nervous system. They help you regulate your heart rate, calm those pre-game jitters, and stay laser focused when it matters most.
Wow. So it's not just about deep breaths. It's like a whole system for controlling your energy and focus precisely.
Think about it. You're in the final seconds of a championship game, down by 1 point. Instead of letting your nerves get the best of you, you can use these breathing techniques to stay centered and make that winning play.
Okay. I'm definitely intrigued by this pranayama thing. I'll have to look into that. But now I think we need to get into the nitty-gritty of the actual yoga poses. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, okay, but where do I even start? What are the specific poses that are most beneficial for athletes?
That's a great question. And that's where things start to get really interesting. So let's dive into some of the best yoga poses for athletes broken down by their benefits, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay, so we'll start with strength building poses because, well, who doesn't want to be stronger, right?
Stronger, faster, better.
Exactly. So some of the most effective poses for building strength are Warrior Two, Chair Pose, and Boat Pose. These poses work major muscle groups, build endurance, and even challenge your balance, all essential elements for peak athletic performance.
Okay, let's break those down one by one, starting with Warrior Two.
Yeah.
What makes this pose so beneficial for athletes?
Well, Warrior Two is fantastic for building strength and endurance in the legs, which, is pretty important for most sports.
Yeah, I would say so.
So imagine this. You're standing with your legs spread wide apart, one bent in front and one straight behind, like you're straddling a line. Your arms are outstretched and you're gazing intently over your front hand, holding this pose. Work your quads, hamstrings, and glutes like crazy. And all of that translates to more power and stamina in your sport.
I can already feel the burn just picturing it, right?
Good work.
Okay, so what about chair pose? Is it as simple as it sounds?
Well, the name might sound simple, but the pose itself is definitely a challenge.
Okay, how so?
It's essentially like holding a squat as if you were about to sit in a chair that's not there.
Let's see.
It might sound silly, but trust me, it fires up your core quads and glutes like nobody's business. Plus, it helps improve your balance, which is crucial for, well, pretty much everything in life.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, what about boat pose? That one sounds a little intimidating.
So, pose is definitely a core strength superstar. To do this pose, you balance on your sit bones. Those are the bony points you feel and you sit down
Got it.
with your legs lifted and your back straight. And it's a serious test for your abs and back muscles, which are essential for overall athletic performance and preventing those lower back aches and pains we all dread.
Oof. Yeah, no one wants those.
So yeah, boat pose is a great one for building core strength.
Okay, so we've got Warrior Two, chair pose, and boat pose for strength. Now, what about flexibility? We've talked about it a lot, but haven't gotten into specific poses yet.
Right, so let's dive into some poses that will really test your flexibility. Are you ready?
Bring it on.
Okay then, buckle up for downward dog. This is one of the most iconic yoga poses, and for good reason. It's a full body stretch that targets your hamstrings, calves, and shoulders, all areas that tend to get tight in athletes.
Yeah, downward dog. I think even people who have never done yoga have heard of that one. What makes it so special?
Well, imagine this. You're on your hands and knees. Then you lift your hips up and back, forming an inverted V shape with your body.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Your hands are shoulder width apart, your feet are hip width apart, and your heels are reaching towards the ground, even if they don't touch. And this pose lengthens your spine, stretches those tight hamstrings and calves, and even opens up your chest and shoulders.
I could see how that would be beneficial for just about anyone, but especially runners who are always battling tight hamstrings.
Absolutely. And if you want to take your hamstring and hip flexibility to the next level, there's another pose that's a runner's best friend, pigeon pose.
Pigeon pose. Okay, that name doesn't exactly scream athletic, but I'm intrigued. What's so great about it?
Don't let the name fool you. This pose is a deep hip opener that can work wonders for those tight hip flexors that plague runners and cyclists. So imagine this. You start on all fours, then bring your right knee behind your right wrist and extend your left leg back behind you. you'll feel a deep stretch in your right hip and groin, which can help prevent those common hip and groin injuries that sideline so many athletes.
Okay, I'm definitely adding pigeon pose to my routine. What about lizard stretch? Is that another one for the hip flexors?
Absolutely. The lizard stretch is like pigeon pose's cooler older sibling. It's a deeper variation that also stretches the quads, making it a fantastic choice for athletes who need that extra bit of hip mobility.
Okay, so how do you do it?
So you start in a low lunge position with your right foot forward. Then you walk your right foot out to the side and lower your forearms to the ground. You should feel a deep, satisfying stretch in your right hip and quad. It might feel intense at first, but trust me, the reward is worth it.
Okay, I'm starting to get the picture here. Yoga is like a toolbox filled with all these different stretches and poses to address specific needs, kind of like a Swiss Army knife for athletes.
I like that analogy, but what about
After a tough workout, are there any poses that are specifically helpful for winding down and recovering?
oh, for sure. That's where our recovery and relaxation poses come in. Poses like child's pose, reclining twist, and legs up the wall are amazing for releasing tension and promoting relaxation after you've pushed your body to the limit.
Okay, let's talk about those, starting with child's pose, which sounds pretty straightforward.
It is, and that's part of its beauty. Child's pose is a gentle stretch for your back and shoulders, and it's a fantastic way to just let go and breathe deeply. So imagine this. You start on your hands and knees, then bring your big toes together and sit back. Back on your heels, lower your forehead to the ground, and just relax, letting your arms rest down by your sides or reaching out in front of you. It's like giving your whole body a big hug.
Oh, that sounds lovely. What about reclining twist? Is that one good for the back too?
It is. Reclining twist is another gentle pose that helps release tension in the spine and can even improve spinal mobility.
How do you do that one?
You lie on your back with your knees bent and your feet flat on the floor. Then you hug your knees into your chest and gently drop both knees over to one side, keeping your chest as square to the ceiling as possible. It's a gentle way to decompress your spine and ease any stiffness or soreness. Okay,
And finally, what about legs up the wall? That one sounds kind of intriguing.
this one's a personal favorite after a long day or a tough workout. It's incredibly relaxing and helps improve circulation, reduce swelling in your legs, and ease any fatigue.
Okay, I'm sold. How do I do it?
So you lie down on your back with your hips close to a wall, then lift your legs up and rest them against the wall. You can keep your legs straight or bend your knees slightly. Just let your arms rest comfortably by your sides. Close your eyes and enjoy the feeling of your legs draining and your body completely relaxing.
That sounds amazing. I think I need to schedule some serious relaxation time into my week.
It's a game changer.
So we've talked about a lot of different poses here, and I could see how they could benefit any athlete, no matter what sport they play. But are there any specific recommendations for different types of athletes? Like, should runners focus on certain poses more than swimmers?
So that's a great question. And the answer is yes. Tailoring your yoga practice to your specific sport can be incredibly beneficial. So let's start with runners. Since we've already talked about those tight hamstrings and hip flexors,
Sounds good. What would you recommend for those of us who like to pound the pavement?
well, as we've discussed, poses like downward dog, pigeon pose, and lizard stretch are crucial for runners because they target those areas that tend to get overworked. But you can also add in poses like reclining pigeon pose and supine spinal twist to further release tension in the hips and spine. And don't forget about strengthening poses like warrior the third and tree pose to build balance and stability, which can help prevent those ankle rolls and knee injuries that can happen when you're running on uneven terrain.
So it's like a customized yoga routine designed to address the specific demands of running.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool. What about weightlifters? What poses would you recommend for them?
For weightlifters, shoulder mobility is key. I mean, they're constantly lifting heavy weights overhead, which can lead to tightness and stiffness in the shoulders and upper back. So for Air Fridays,
Yeah, that makes sense.
so poses like cow face pose, thread the needle, and puppy pose can work wonders for opening up those tight shoulders and improving range of motion.
Okay. Cow face pose. That one sounds interesting. Is it as complicated as it sounds?
Mhm. It's not as complicated as the name suggests, but it can be a bit challenging at first. It's all about getting your hands to clasp behind your back with one arm reaching up and over your shoulder and the other reaching down and under. It's a great stretch for the shoulders, upper back, and even the chest.
I'll give that one a try. So what about swimmers? Yeah, what poses would benefit them the most?
For swimmers, back flexibility and breath control are incredibly important. Poses like cobra pose, bridge pose, and fish pose help improve spinal mobility, which can lead to a more efficient and powerful stroke. Okay, and remember pranayama, those breathing exercises we talked about?
Yeah,
Those can be incredibly beneficial for swimmers, helping them develop better lung capacity and breath control in the water.
that makes sense. So it's like yoga can help swimmers both in and out of the pool.
Exactly.
Pretty amazing. And finally, what about athletes in team sports like basketball, soccer, or football?
For team sports, it's all about balance, agility, and quick reflexes. Poses like tree pose, warrior the third, and crow pose can help develop stability and coordination. While twists like revolved, triangle pose, and half Lord of the Fishes pose can improve spinal mobility and range of motion.
I love how yoga seems to have something for everyone, no matter what their athletic pursuits are. It's like a universal training tool for the body and mind.
Exactly. And the best part is you don't need to spend hours on the mat to reap the benefits. Even just incorporating a few key poses into your routine can make a noticeable difference in your performance and overall well-being.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about why yoga is beneficial for athletes, specific poses that target different needs, and even tailoring your practice to your sport. But the million-dollar question is, how do you actually integrate yoga into your training routine? It's one thing to know the poses, but it's another to actually make it a consistent part of your life.
And you're absolutely right. It's all about finding what works for you and making it a habit. And the good news is it doesn't have to be complicated.
Okay, good.
So let's talk about some practical strategies for making yoga a part of your athletic journey. So I think the key is to be strategic about it, like really think about how yoga can complement your existing training schedule. You don't need to overhaul your entire routine or suddenly become a yoga master.
Right, that makes sense. I think a lot of athletes might feel intimidated by the idea of adding something new to their already packed schedules.
Yeah, totally.
But if it's just a few minutes here and there, that seems much more doable.
Exactly. And those few minutes can make a world of difference. So let's talk about when and how to integrate yoga into your training week.
All right, let's break it down. What are the options?
Well, you can do yoga before training, after training, or even on your rest days. And each approach has its own unique benefits.
Okay, let's start with before training. How can yoga help prepare your body for a workout?
Well, think of it as a dynamic warm-up that incorporates yoga poses instead of just doing static stretches, just standing there and touching your toes. A short flowing yoga sequence before your workout can increase blood flow to your muscles, improve flexibility, and activate those key muscle groups, all of which can help prevent injuries and prime your body for peak performance.
So instead of just standing there doing toe touches, I could do some sun salutations or warrior poses to get my heart rate up and my muscles warmed up.
Exactly. You could even incorporate some downward dogs and lunges to lengthen your hamstrings and open up your hips. It's about getting your body moving and prepped for the workout ahead.
Okay, that makes sense. What about after training? How can yoga aid recovery?
Well, after a tough workout, your body needs some TLC, and that's where a longer, slower yoga session can be a lifesaver. This is where those more relaxing poses we talked about, like child's pose, reclining, twist, and legs up the wall really come into play.
So it's like a cool down routine, but with added benefits.
Exactly. Think of it as active recovery. You're giving your body a chance to gently stretch out, release tension, and promote blood flow to those tired muscles, which helps reduce soreness and speed up recovery.
Okay, so yoga before training is like a dynamic warm up, and yoga after training is like active recovery. Got it. But what about rest days? I feel like on rest days, I just want to collapse on the couch and do absolutely nothing.
I hear you. Rest is definitely important, but sometimes your body needs a little nudge to fully recover. And that's where some gentle yoga on your rest days can be surprisingly beneficial.
Really? So even when I'm supposed to be taking it easy, I should be doing yoga?
Well, it doesn't have to be a full blown power yoga session. Think more along the lines of gentle restorative poses that focus on deep stretching and relaxation.
Okay, what kind of poses are we talking about here?
Well, this is a great time to explore styles like yin yoga or restorative yoga.
Okay,
Yin yoga involves holding poses for longer periods, usually like 3 to 5 minutes, to target the connective tissues and improve flexibility. It's a very passive style of yoga, almost like a moving meditation.
okay, that sounds interesting. What about restorative yoga?
Restorative yoga is all about using props like blankets, bolsters, and blocks to support your body in relaxing poses. It's like giving your body a chance to completely surrender and let go.
So instead of pushing myself to my limits, I'm just like letting my body melt into these supported poses.
Exactly. It's about letting go of effort and allowing your body to fully rest and recharge.
I think a lot of athletes might resist the idea of doing yoga on rest days,
Yeah.
because they feel like they need to be constantly pushing themselves to improve.
Yeah, I get that. But sometimes the best thing you can do for your body is to give it a break and allow it to fully recover. Think of rest and recovery as an essential part of your training program, just like lifting weights or going for a run.
That's a great point. It's not about being on all the time. It's about finding that balance between pushing yourself and allowing your body to rest and rebuild.
Exactly. And yoga can be a fantastic tool for finding that balance.
Okay, so we've talked about when to do yoga, but how much yoga should athletes actually be doing? Is there like a magic number?
Well, the great thing about yoga is that you can tailor it to fit your needs and schedule. You don't need to be doing hour-long classes every day to reap the benefits. Even just 10 to 20 minutes a few times a week can make a huge difference.
That's encouraging to hear. I think a lot of people might assume that you need to devote a ton of time to yoga to see results.
Yeah, it's definitely a quality over quantity situation. Even a short, focused yoga session can be incredibly beneficial, especially if you're targeting specific areas that need attention.
So if I'm a runner who's struggling with tight hamstrings, I could just spend 15 minutes doing some hamstring focused poses a few times a week.
Exactly. You could do some downward dogs, pigeon poses, forward folds, and hamstring stretches.
Yeah.
That kind of focused practice can make a world of difference in terms of flexibility and injury prevention.
This is all making so much sense. Yeah. But I think there might be some listeners out there who are thinking, okay, this all sounds great, but I'm not flexible enough for yoga.
Oh, I hear that all the time. And it's one of the biggest misconceptions about yoga. Yoga is not about being super bendy or contorting yourself into pretzel shapes, right? It's about finding what feels good in your body and moving in a way that honors your unique structure and limitations.
So it's not about achieving some kind of Instagram worthy pose.
Not at all. It's about listening to your body, respecting your limits, and meeting yourself where you are. And the beautiful thing is, the more you practice yoga, the more flexible you'll become.
Though it's a journey, not a destination. I love that.
Exactly. And remember, everyone starts somewhere. Some people naturally have more flexibility than others, but that doesn't mean you can't enjoy and benefit from yoga.
Speaking of starting somewhere, I think it's important to acknowledge that stepping into a yoga studio for the first time can be intimidating, especially if you're used to more traditional forms of exercise.
Oh, absolutely. It can be nerve-wracking, especially if you don't know the etiquette or what to expect.
Right? There's the whole what to wear, what to bring, where do I put my shoes dilemma.
Exactly. It's understandable to feel a little apprehensive, but most yoga studios are incredibly welcoming and inclusive environments.
Yeah, I found that to be true as well. Everyone is usually so focused on their own practice that they're not judging what you're doing.
Exactly. And if you're feeling nervous, don't hesitate to chat with the teacher before class. Most teachers are happy to answer any questions you have, offer modifications for poses, and just make you feel more comfortable.
That's a good tip. And if someone's still hesitant about a studio class, there are other options, right?
Absolutely. Online yoga classes and apps are becoming increasingly popular, and they offer a great way to try yoga from the comfort of your own home.
That's a great point. You can find all sorts of classes online, from beginner-friendly flows to more advanced practices, all taught by experienced instructors.
And the best part is you can go at your own pace, pause the video whenever you need to, and no one will even know if you're wearing your pajamas.
So if someone's feeling overwhelmed by all the different yoga styles and options out there, what would you recommend as a good starting point?
That's a great question. I always recommend starting with a hatha yoga class. Hatha yoga focuses on basic poses, proper alignment, and breath work. And it's a fantastic foundation for exploring other styles of yoga later on.
Okay, hatha yoga. I'll keep that in mind. And I guess once you have the basics down, you can branch out and explore all the other styles out there, like vinyasa, flow, yin yoga, restorative yoga. The possibilities are endless.
Exactly. And that's what makes yoga so fascinating. There's always something new to learn and discover. It's a lifelong journey.
I'm curious, from your perspective as a yoga expert, what are some of the biggest mistakes you see athletes making when they first start practicing yoga?
That's a good question. Well, one common mistake is trying to do too much too soon. It's important to listen to your body and honor its limitations. Don't try to force yourself into poses that your body isn't ready for.
So basically, don't try to be a hero on day one.
Exactly. It's much better to start slowly and gradually increase your flexibility and strength over time. Remember, yoga is not a competition. It's about honoring your own unique journey.
That's great advice. Any other common pitfalls to avoid?
Another one is forgetting to breathe. It sounds obvious, but it's easy to get so caught up in the physicality of the poses that you forget to breathe deeply and fully.
Ah, yes, the breath. We talked about pranayama earlier, but it's worth emphasizing again how crucial the breath is in yoga.
Absolutely. The breath is like the bridge between the mind and body in yoga. It helps you stay present, release tension, and move more fluidly through the poses.
So if I find myself holding my breath during a yoga practice, that's a sign that I'm pushing myself too hard.
Exactly. It's a reminder to ease back, find your breath, and soften into the pose.
I think those are really valuable tips for anyone new to yoga. It's all about approaching the practice with mindfulness and self-compassion.
Absolutely. And remember, consistency is key. Even just a few minutes of yoga each day can make a big difference over time. So,
I love that. Small, consistent steps lead to big changes.
so we've been talking about all the amazing physical benefits of yoga.
Yeah,
From injury prevention to improved flexibility and recovery.
right.
But there's another aspect of yoga that I think we haven't explored as much, and that's the mental game.
You're absolutely right. We touched on, breath work and mental focus earlier, but I think it's worth diving a little deeper into how yoga can help athletes develop a stronger, more resilient mindset.
Yeah, let's talk about that because let's be honest, sports can be incredibly demanding, both physically and mentally.
No doubt.
So, how does yoga help athletes navigate those mental challenges?
Well, one of the key ways is through mindfulness.
Mindfulness?
Yeah, mindfulness is all about paying attention to the present moment without judgment. It's about being aware of your thoughts, your feelings, and your sensations without getting swept away by them.
Okay, I think I get it.
And yoga cultivates mindfulness by encouraging you to focus on your breath, your body, and the sensations of each movement.
So, instead of letting my mind race with thoughts about the past or worries about the future, I'm learning to stay present and grounded in the here and now.
Exactly. And that ability to stay present is a game changer for athletes. I mean, imagine you're stepping up to the plate in a tie game, bases loaded. Instead of letting your mind get flooded with doubts or anxieties, you can use your breath and your body awareness to stay focused on the task at hand.
It sounds like yoga is almost like mental cross training for athletes.
You could say that it's about training your mind to be more focused, calm, and resilient, just like you train your body to be stronger and more agile.
So, if mindfulness is one mental tool that yoga provides, what are some others?
Another valuable tool is the ability to let go of outcomes. Okay, so in yoga, you learn to focus on the process, the journey, rather than getting attached to achieving a specific result.
Right.
And this can be incredibly liberating for athletes who are often, driven by results and external validation.
I could see how that would be helpful because let's face it, there are always going to be setbacks and disappointments in sports.
Sure.
So, how does yoga help athletes deal with those inevitable challenges?
Well, yoga teaches you to approach those challenges with a sense of acceptance and non-attachment. You learn to let go of the need to control everything and to embrace the ups and downs as part of the journey.
So, instead of getting discouraged by a loss or a bad performance, I can use those experiences as opportunities to learn and grow.
Exactly. It's about shifting your perspective and seeing challenges as opportunities rather than setbacks. And that kind of mental resilience can translate to all areas of life, not just sports.
That's such an important point is like yoga is giving you these mental tools and techniques that you can use both on and off the field, in competition and in everyday life.
Absolutely. And that's why I believe that yoga is such a holistic practice. It's not just about physical fitness, it's about mental, emotional, and even spiritual well-being.
Wow, this has been incredibly insightful. We've covered so much ground today, from the physical benefits of yoga to the mental game and everything in between.
That's been fun.
It really has. But before we wrap up this episode, I want to make sure our listeners have some resources to continue their exploration of yoga.
Great idea. There are so many amazing resources available these days. So, for those who prefer learning in a studio setting, Yoga Journal has a fantastic online directory of yoga studios all over the country. You can search by location, style of yoga, and even teacher experience.
That's awesome. And for those who prefer practicing at home, there are tons of online yoga platforms and apps available. Two of my favorites are Yoga Glow and Alo Moves. They both offer a wide variety of classes for all levels, from beginner to advanced, taught by experienced and inspiring teachers.
Nice. And if you're looking to invest in some quality yoga gear, I highly recommend Manduka and Lululemon. They both make durable, comfortable, and stylish yoga mats, clothing, and accessories.
Good to know. And for those who are interested in delving deeper into the philosophy and history of yoga, I highly recommend the book, The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. It's an ancient text that lays out the foundational principles of yoga practice.
That's a classic.
I'm already feeling inspired to roll out my mat and get my yoga on.
Me too. Yeah, it's amazing how much we've learned about the transformative power of yoga for athletes.
It really is. From increased flexibility and strength to improved recovery and a more resilient mindset, yoga truly is a game changer for anyone looking to enhance their athletic performance and live a more balanced and fulfilling life.
Well said. And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. So be patient with yourself, find joy in the practice, and embrace the amazing benefits that yoga has to offer.
And who knows, maybe yoga will become your secret weapon, helping you achieve your athletic goals and unlock your full potential both on and off the field.
I love that. That's the beauty of yoga. It has the power to transform us in ways we never thought possible.
Well, on that inspiring note, we'll wrap up this episode into Yoga for Athletes. Until next time, keep exploring, learning, and diving deep.
See you next time.